Good evening. My name is Tylluan. I'm a solitary pagan witch. I'm an author and the founder of the Wolf and Howl Press. And although this is mid-August at the moment, you can see I'm sitting here all cutched up, as we say in Wales, with my cardigan and everything. It's actually quite cold. And tonight I thought I would talk to you a little bit about harvest festivals. Now, when we think of the saying, a harvest festival, we tend to think of a church, a country church, and all the parishioners bringing their produce, cakes and jam and things they've grown, tomatoes, stuff like that. And it is true that this is how we tend to think of it nowadays. The thing about a harvest, firstly, is that there are many different types of harvest. A harvest is not just about things that we grow in order to eat. I mean, years ago that was an incredibly important thing, because if you didn't get a good harvest, then you didn't eat and the whole community suffered as a result. But there are other types of harvest. There's the harvest that we have in ourselves, things we've tried to learn, things we've tried to do. I was in a shop the other day and I heard this woman chatting away, and she was saying about, I'd like to go and do a course, she said, but I'm too thick to learn. Now, to me, that's a terrible tragedy, because none of us are too thick to learn, and I'm quite sure listening to her talk that she wasn't. I don't know, maybe she was fishing for compliments or something. But a harvest can be the things that we've learned. It can be a skill, a practical skill like knitting or quilting or crochet, something like that, or painting, or learning to play a musical instrument, or writing a book, what have you. It can be passing an exam, studying. I don't think it's any surprise in a way that August is the month when certainly in the UK anyway, when the results come out for the exams with schools, which decide and determine a young person's future, what they're going to do. Are they going to get the grades they need? Now, for me as a pagan, I would say there are three harvests. Never mind what I've just said now, but there being different types for each person, that's very true. But I think even if we think of a harvest as something that we grow in order to eat, it's very important to realise that not everything ripens at around the same time, which really makes a nonsense of having a single harvest festival. Now, for me as a witch and a pagan, the three harvest festivals occur. One at the beginning of August, the feasts of Lammas or Lunasa, or they have different names and they're slightly different in intention, but around the 1st of August is one. The next one is around the autumn equinox, the fall equinox. Some people call it the Feast of Mabon, all sorts of other names in slightly different traditions. And then the final one, of course, is the Samhain or Halloween, that last one which ushers in winter. And I think pardon me, the idea of having the three festivals is quite important, because the 1st of August, for me as a pagan, is the start of autumn, the start of the fall, as I know some parts of the world call it, the fall, the autumn. And of course, Samhain or Halloween is the last of it. It's the last festival that ushers in the winter. Now, we get a lot of problems with this when we talk to people about where the seasons start, so I better explain where they start for me. As I've said, I believe that autumn starts in August. And you notice, or I notice, the nights start to draw in. They get much earlier where it goes dark. In July it was light here until 9:30. Now we're lucky to get to 9 o'clock. It's been a very drastic, very sudden reduction. The berries are ripening. It's much cooler in the morning. It's much cooler at night. I mean, here we are 7:30 at night. I am freezing. I am really cold. I know I've got all sorts of problems that mean I do feel the cold more now, but this is unusual for me. You know, just the spiders' webs and things like that. So what I'd like to do now while I'm talking about these harvests is I would like us to try and think what a harvest means to us as we pass through each of these festivals. What does it mean? You know, as I said, there is no single harvest, you know. The mushrooms don't come at the same time as the berries. The Kentish cobnuts are in the market stalls at the moment, but other things won't be coming until much later. And this idea of spreading the harvest, spreading the time when we gather, it's important because otherwise we'd all go mad trying to gather everything at once. We couldn't do it. Whereas in fact, because we gather slowly, I mean the blackberries are great at the moment, but because we gather slowly, we're giving ourselves time to bottle fruits or make jam and chutney or what have you. These are things we need. We need the time as we pass through the harvests. We need the time, whether it's a food harvest, whether it's a learning harvest. We need time to gather, time to process, time to pause and think what next. And this is something we can all do as pagans, you know. It's a very simple little talk, this, and sometimes I know people will say, oh, this is much too simple for me. You know, but unless we get these really simple things right, unless we get our attitudes sorted, we end up not really understanding the bigger things, the bigger pictures. Once we get this nice firm foundation and we understand what a harvest really is, it's something we can only do for ourselves. And none of us, not one of us, is unable to learn it. Just like that woman was talking in the shop the other day where she was saying she was too thick to learn. Not true. There might have been many things. She might have been too busy to learn. She might have had too many demands upon her time. She might have been not interested in learning. She might have been someone who was fundamentally lazy. I don't know. It could have been she had huge responsibilities at home, you know, and she just didn't have the time and she knew this. But none of us are too stupid to learn. We can all learn. And this is a very good time to start thinking of it. Maybe we've missed the harvest this year. But if we start planning ahead, we can get a harvest in next year. And that's really all I wanted to say to you in this little talk. And I do hope you've enjoyed it. And thank you very much for listening. Good night.